research has found that if you ask perpetrators, what benefits they're getting from this, they can describe a lot of benefits they're getting from this. So on the one hand, they get to be the one who is in total control. They get to say what happens in the family, what doesn't happen. They get to have far higher levels of control over their children than parents normally would want or would have. They get to dictate the child's whole reality, to say what's real, what exists, what isn't real, what doesn't exist. Even if that's total nonsense, they get to dictate and shape reality in any form they want to. So they become almost godlike in the family. At the same time, because of the position of power they've built up, they also get to opt out of all the normal obligations and fairness and the kind of fairness of relationships. So they get to come and go as they please. Their family has to follow a lot of rules that they set, but they don't have to follow any rules. And the family has no power to hold them accountable if they don't. So they can disappear off for days. They can spend all the family's money and face no consequence. They can upset their children and then not have to deal with the fallout of it. They can demand sexual gratification whenever they want it without having to think about anyone else. So they get to be, they get to break the law in that respect and carry out rape and sexual coercion without consequence, because again, how can the family hold them accountable? They don't have the power. So they're getting so many benefits from A, being able to shape everyone else's reality, but B, not being held to account for any of it because they've hoarded all the power that would be necessary to hold them to account. And they know this, and they can describe the benefits that they're getting. And they also they're being very deliberate in what they're doing. So, for example, one perpetrator on a perpetrator program was asked, well, why did you attack your partner as a mother? Why did you undermine her as a mother? Why did you try to make her feel bad as a mother, take away her authority? And he said, well, I knew it was the thing that meant the most to her. I knew it was the thing that would upset her the most. Being a mother is the thing she cares most about, and that's why I attacked it, because I knew it was the thing that would hurt the most. So that's just chilling. But he was admitting that because he was on a perpetrator program. But of course, if he'd been asked that in other contexts, he would have given a very different answer, because perpetrators are very good at disguising what they're doing and excusing it, minimizing it, justifying it, denying it, so they can appear as the absolute nice guys to the people they want to appear that way to their community, to anyone who might hold them to account. They can appear as very plausible, good, nice blokes. And of course, for the perpetrators who've gone on to kill, and these are the cases that usually come to media attention because it's got to that extreme extent, almost everyone says, I can't believe he did this because he's such a great bloke. No, he wasn't a great bloke. He was never a great bloke, but he was very good at giving the appearance of it, because of course that enabled him to keep going with his abuse. If he'd appeared obviously abusive to everyone, it would have greatly limited his power to carry on abusing. So by appearing as a great bloke and deceiving people into thinking that's what he was like, for years and years and years, then he was able to continue his abuse. So yeah, it's very deceptive what these people are really like behind closed doors. And I think we just need to do a lot more to believe victims and survivors when they tell us this is what a person is like, but also to be aware that perpetrators will often claim to be the victim themselves, again, as a strategy. It's called DARVO. It's a strategy that perpetrators use, and it's DARVO, and it stands for deny that you were ever abusive, attack the credibility and character of the victim by saying that she's my crazy ex, she's mentally unstable, she was the violent and abusive one, perhaps drawing on any incident where she fought back or defended herself to make that claim that actually she was the violent and abusive one. And then to reverse victim and offender. So the perpetrator likes to say, well, I'm the real victim here, and my victim is the offender. And so we have to really be alert for those DARVO tactics. The reason perpetrators use those tactics is to muddy the waters and to confuse everyone about who is the victim and who is the perpetrator. And if they can just succeed in doing that, just muddying the waters, then unfortunately, like 90% of people will just throw up their hands in the air and say, oh, it's too complicated. I can't work out who's telling the truth and who's lying. I can't work out who the good guy and the bad guy is here. So I'm just going to walk away and I'm not going to support the victim, and I'm not going to hold the perpetrator to account, and I'm not going to get involved, or I'm going to force them both to co-parent with each other and try and, you know, try and deal with it that way, because I can't work this out. But in fact, if people dug into the years of power and control, the coercion, the patterns of financial and economic abuse, you know, if they dug into the evidence of who had the power over these years to do what they wanted to do and who did not have that power, it would be quite easy to work out. And I think that's the direction we need to head in, not getting confused by these DARVO tactics of perpetrators, and being more willing to believe victims and survivors, even though the perpetrator seems like such a good bloke.